Welcome to Coaching in Session,
where limits end and growth begins.
Hosted by Michael Rearden.
This is your space to challenge the ordinary,
Unlock your potential,
and step boldly into your next chapter.
Your mindset journey continues.
Welcome, Marcy Axelrod to Coaching in Session. How are you doing today?
Michael, I am doing exceptionally well. It is a really beautiful day for so many reasons. And thank you for asking. How about your day?
I'm doing well, and we're going to be getting into some of those beautiful reasons, I'm sure, today. We're going to be talking about your work, how you study, how people choose to show up in your life or their life. And this is the idea of how you do the work as a behavior scientist, where you're looking at a person for not only what they're doing, but what they're possibly capable of doing. And when I work with individuals, we deal with a lot of mindset work where people, they have limits within themselves. They might have given themselves a certain parameter to choose to live life. And I asked them, well, why choose to live in this zone? Why not break free? And we're going to be talking about all of that today. But in your own words, can you tell the world who you are, what you do, and of course, how you help people?
Yeah, I definitely will. And I will certainly reflect on quite a bit of what you said just now, Michael. So thank you. What I do and who I am. Yeah, so I really prefer to speak first about who I am. You know, so many people ask, what do you do? As if your doings are your being, and that's not right. So who I am, I mean, I've always felt I was here for a purpose. I do find that my purpose is fulfilled by modeling what I believe to be nature's model of how people are designed to show up. How are we designed to show up? And I think intuitively, a lot of people know it's other-centered, not self-centered, less ego, mirror turned outward. What does that mean? It means kindness. It means care. It means being less tied up in what you're, quote, doing and more open to the fullness of what's going on. So this is who I am. You know, I do ongoing global research about how people are choosing or not choosing to show up. We can get into what showing up means. We can get into what choosing means. Beyond that, I don't nounify myself. So I don't say author, speaker, artist. I say, I research, I write, I parent, I friend, I create art, and yes, I give speeches. So, I mean, I hope I've answered your questions.
Well, like I said, here in Coaching in Session, we don't necessarily have a free flow of questions or a barrage of questions where I'm just going to give you need to answer like a typical interview. I was watching an interview the other day, and he was just asking a question after question after question. There's no dialogue.
Right.
And I was like, this is interesting. And I can understand if you are interviewing maybe one of the top 1%ers in the world, maybe you just want to know about them. And then so it's going to be a question after question. But even if you look at podcasts like Joe Rogan, there's a dialogue there with some of the top 1%ers in the world. So I just think when someone is meeting or when we're trying to introduce you to the audience and just in general, it's important to get to know the person more than just a bunch of questions. Because if you think about it, it's like 21 questions on the first date, they say, or something. You mean like 21 questions, and you
takes 36 to fall into love. But really, yeah, we can talk about that too.
Well, I asked you one question, so it's going to take me 30 more questions or something like that to fall in love with you. But hey, I already know I fell in love with you. The moment we set up this interview, I said, I'm already in love with what you do. And one of the things I wanted to get into is purpose, where I think of purpose as multi-level. Because when we think of purpose, people think, oh, I have to find my purpose. I have to be in my purpose. I have to do my purpose. And when I think of purpose, is purpose something you reach or is purpose something you live?
Okay, wait. I'm writing down what thoughts on purpose, because purpose is like a P word. Like people avoid it.
It's a problem word.
Yeah. Statistics out of Stanford University. It's actually the guys who do the Design Your Life class, like one of the most popular classes at Stanford. It's Dave Evans and Bill Burnett. They did this research, and they've got this hysterical video of Stanford students, seniors about to be launched, and they say, what's your purpose? Are you excited to go get out there? And they show all of these innocent kids going, like they have no idea. So purpose, let's talk about that. I think that that word is like a compote. There's actually a lot of components, and it's important to break it down because there is significance. What feels weighty to you, right? What has weight to it? Then there's mattering. What actually matters? And then there's value. What is aligned with the values that you find to be the guiding principles across your life? Those are all important things. Ultimately, what and you've got to separate these things, because feeling that you have a purpose, I think what most people default to from that word is, here's what I'm supposed to be doing with my life, right? But when you really back up, it's, well, what feels meaningful? So there's meaning, there's mattering, there's significance. And I think those are more valuable for people to consider. I'm very unusual. I'm one of the very rare people on the planet who, from a young age, I was just after age 6, it became extremely clear to me that I'm a vessel. Like, I'm not an ego here. I'm a vessel through which information, modeling, and ideas and things like that flow. And what that information and ideas are about is how nature designed human beings to show up. I mean, that's how I've decided to kind of put a context around it. So there's a model. And how I came upon this understanding is that I lived into it. And I'll give 3 short stories, if that's okay, about how I discovered what most people would consider a life purpose. So the first, I was 6 years old. We had just moved from Baltimore to Boston because my father had been offered to create the first department of nuclear medicine on the planet. And mom and dad were busy. They're both physicians. My sister was focused on her stuff. And little Marcy, age 6, like, everything changed. There was no attention. I wasn't getting the attention I needed. My friends disappeared. My school disappeared. My house disappeared. Everything just disappeared. But I wasn't one to act out. So I acted in, which means that the genetics for, in my case, stuttering showed up. And all of a sudden my throat locked and I couldn't speak. So that created a world where I couldn't show up as I chose. You know, the teacher in first grade would ask a question and I would, and collectively the entire class had pain for me. And I said to myself, we are connected. I'm not a me, I'm a collective. We're a collective. They feel my pain. And to me, it was supportive. And that's when I figured out, if you take a spoon and you put it into the ocean and you have a little spoonful of ocean, that's what we are. So we might be separate from the ocean in a certain way, but we are the entire ocean right there. That's what I learned. There's an intraconnectedness of everything. The second thing I figured out is that it was so painful to be me because I didn't want to pain anybody. That was not my purpose on this planet. I knew that. So I cleaved off that pain and I turned my self mirror around. What I was actually saying to myself at age 6 is, I can't show up as I choose. So let's just become an observer of how everyone else on the planet is showing up. And what did I see? I saw the bully over there and the scaredy cat over there and the educator's not doing anything. And I couldn't stand it. How is it that they're throwing their show up choices away? And it really impacted my entire lens on the world. And it really shut down this ego because I was filled with pain, and it was like, it didn't matter. It was everyone else around me. So I became other focused at a very young age, right? What Martin Luther King said, what man self-centered has built up, other-centered will build up. So I kind of was gifted an other-centered perspective very young, less of an ego. Then at age 12, my third short story here, I was sent to a rehabilitation hospital where elders were recovering from strokes. And they had this new program supposedly to help kids who stuttered. Traumatizing being there. But really what I saw, these elders with a lifetime of wisdom and experts by their side, and these expert plans, these aides at their side would be flipping these plans. They'd be doing exactly what they're told. Basic things, how to hold a fork, how to feed themselves, how to sit and stand. And I said to myself, they're struggling. How is it that a lifetime of wisdom, experts by their side, well-made plans, knowing how they want to show up, and yet they're still struggling to show up as they choose? So that's when I said, where's the roadmap? Where's the blueprint? This shouldn't be so hard. And that was my life's purpose right there. I started to devour every bit of psychology, which then became neuroscience, philosophy, evolutionary biology, which then became behavioral economics, all sorts of things about how are humans showing up. That's how I discovered my calling. And the blueprint is in the book. This is the roadmap and the blueprint that we were searching for. And I'd be very happy to explain it to people. But anyway, you asked about purpose, and that's how I found my purpose. And I will give you some slides for the show notes. But 1, 2, 3 showing up is I put it into 3 easy levels, and we're in 3 roles. And I can explain how it makes us the people we all want to be. Talk about money, talk about success, talk about the confidence that you've been looking for. This is it.
Very cool. I think of what you said in the beginning. It's about when you were in school and you were stuttering. I had a huge stuttering problem as well in school. It was like I couldn't get out what I wanted to say. And I can kind of remember the transition when I was getting up in grades, maybe around 6th grade. I think that's when the stuttering started to dissipate, and then it just went away. And one of the ways it went away, or how I think it got away, was me becoming more confident. So in 6th grade, it was funny because as much as I was not into academics, I got into academics around the 4th grade, and it started to incline from there. Before 4th grade, I was like a daydreamer. I was like not wanting to be a part of school. I didn't really want much besides to go to school and hang out with my friends. But in 6th grade, you get tested to be either in advanced algebra
Right.
or just in regular algebra. Well, I tested into advanced algebra. So I did advanced algebra 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And so when I was graduating from high school or from elementary school into going into high school, I was supposed to go into the honors level of algebra in high school. And I said to myself, why would I do that? Why would I put myself into this high level of math and have to suffer for a year or two, whatever it be, when I could just kind of cruise my freshman, my sophomore, my junior year? And that's what I did. I said, I'm not going to tell anyone I should be in honors. I mean, I was on the honor roll, but I just went in and I was just in basic math. Everyone is struggling. I'm over there just doing tests, getting hundreds easy. So for me, it was the confidence that built me, and it got rid of the stuttering. One of the things I love that you said was the ocean, right? If you take a spoon and you put it into the ocean, you have some of that water in that spoon. That's the entire ocean. It's a powerful metaphor for what life is, because I think sometimes people think that they are an insignificant factor or they might not mean much. I can't tell you how many people who they come to me and they just are, as you say, are not choosing to show up, or they are not confident in themselves. They could have a plethora of problems ranging from they're not happy with their job or they're not happy with their relationship. It can be anywhere in between. And one of the things we really look at is we look at their dream, we look at the purpose, but then we also look at the direction they want to go, because most people don't look at the future and say, you know what, tomorrow I'm going to be in a worse spot than today. I'm so excited. People don't talk like that, right? But they live like that. They don't take action towards something better. So if we know that people want better, if we know that people would love better, why don't people chase better all the time?
Because most people live doing 2 things at all times. They live regretting the past and fearing the future. Okay. And when you're doing that, guess what? Life goes based on what you hold in your body and in your mind. So you have to let those go to make space so that new things can show up for you. I mean, as Einstein said, right, this isn't a positive universe or a negative one. It's a self-reflective universe. In show up language, the world shows up for you as you show up to the world. Let me mention something else, separateness. A lot of the trauma that people feel is because society, what we're taught, the phrasing that we use, everything about society right now programs us to believe that there's a separateness. You are separate. Michael, you are not me. We have never met. And therefore, the inherent love of kind of the oneness that is everything, it doesn't flow. But this is all a farce, right? As David Bohm, contemporary of Einstein, said, right? There is an implicate order. The fact that we believe we are separate is the root of basically every problem on the planet, right? how we treat the planet, how we treat each other, mental health issues. So the book has a lot of science that shows, like, for example, Michael, right now, as you look in my eyes, there's something going on called interpersonal neural synchronization. And what that means is that before you did this, your brainwave and my brainwave were doing whatever, but within seconds of looking into each other's eyes, there's a single wave. So there's a resonance. Your brain and my brain are doing the same thing at the same time. And it's in your brain and my brain, but you want to know where else it is? It's right here. It's in the in-between space. This is what I call our situation member role. You see, we're in 3 roles, not one. Most people think they're individualized selves. They also think they're a small s version of self, which they're not. We're all big S versions of self, which is the self that all Eastern contemplatives and indigenous cultures have always known. It's also the self, frankly, at the root of almost every religion. But people think they're a self that's separate. Well, what about the other 2 roles? There's a situation member role. Everything that you're doing right now is because of me. You're sitting here having a podcast. You're nodding your head. The way you're breathing, your blood pressure, the amount of cortisol, the amount of dopamine, the amount of serotonin, I could go on and on, is because of what I'm doing right now. You, Michael, you just reset me. I went from presentation mode, sympathetic nervous system, into my parasympathetic, my calmer system, went from head mode to heart mode. The compassion I feel for you, right? My oxytocin just went way up. My dopamine's up. My cortisol's down, right? So it's a big deal, the situation member role. And it's not just when you're with another human. When you step out, you see the sunshine. When you're looking at nature or hearing nature or tasting something, you are deeply in that situation with that, whatever, the book, the temperature, the sunshine, the person, the idea, the spreadsheet, whatever it may be. And it is designing you as much as you're designing it. So that's our second role. Our third role is the connectedness with everything beyond ourselves. Call it member of society, member of a family, a team, a company, a podcasting group. That's also designing you. We're in 3 roles at all times, and we flow 3 people deep, right? I always mention Nicholas Christakis' work, head of a human behavior lab at Yale, spent, 10 years at Harvard before that. He's the one who showed that the 20 people around us are 45% more likely to do what we do. They just are. And guess what? The 20 people around them, we're up to 400 people now, are 25% more likely to do what you do. You may never meet those people. Call it your daughter's best friend. You might know her, but then her father is still 10% more likely to do what you do. Do you know how powerful that is? It's 3 people deep. And it's 8,000, 20 times 20 times 20, because we all have on average about 20 people who we spend most of our time with. And that's not just like when you showed up at your daughter's soccer game. It's every moment. And you don't have to be with someone to be flowing, because let's say you're buying something and yanking on a 6-continent supply chain. God, there's thousands of people who are now doing something because of you. Let's say you're not. Let's say you're just sitting on your couch and you're just resetting yourself. You're also impacting 3 layers deep because of what you're choosing to do and not do, right? So this is absolutely huge. So the 3 roles that we're in create how we show up. And there are 3 levels. I can get into them like 10 levels deep. This isn't just either you're barely there or you're just showing up, which is being a human doing. It's what 80% of us do 80% of the time, according to my research. And then there's truly showing up, which is a right hemispheric, interconnected way of being. This is when you're the parent you want to be. This is when you're the colleague you want to be. That leads to your phone to ring when there's a new project coming down the pipe that everybody wants, and it's your phone that rings, right? This is when you're the one who gets the invitation, right? So truly showing up, I talk about what hemisphere of the brain we use, how it feels, what your body's doing, what people perceive from you. This is when all of a sudden your health issues dissipate, and all of a sudden there's this miraculous, I have never felt so good. Then my pain went away. My relationships are great. So we can get into that if you want. But I really wanted to just make sure that people understand we're not separate. You're impacting the world at every moment, and therefore you have a responsibility. And that there's a reciprocity built into the universe, right? How you show up to the world is how it shows up to you.
I wanted to get into a conversation of showing up, and this is going to be different than just an individual per se, because it's going to be maybe team-based, where I think of people who have accomplished great things in sports as an example. I'm not a huge sport guy, so just kind of bear with me for a little bit, where we can look at people like Michael Jordan, Kobe
Yep.
Bryant,
Yep.
Tom Brady, where they show up, and I mean they show up well,
Yeah.
where we compare them now to someone else, maybe on the team or on the opposing team, and maybe they roll them that day, meaning they just beat them in 3-point shots and rebounds and touchdowns, whatever it is. Can we say that the other people were showing up as well, even if maybe they were a number 3 giving them or giving their all?
Absolutely. So truly showing. So, okay, this whole comparative thing, life is not comparative. No one's thinking about you. Others' behavior is not about you, right? What everyone's doing is projecting themselves onto you. Okay. I'd be happy to give you an example of my mother last night, but okay. So let's say someone in general is doing a 6 out of 10 and someone's doing a 10 out of 10. That 6 out of 10 may have been truly showing up for that person. We are always moving along the continuum every moment of every day. You're a morning person. Maybe you wake up and you're just filled with gratitude, and everything emanating from you is just focused on others and is creatively showing care and love and support. The attention that you can give to your work is just exceptional. And then at some point, you're kind of hungry and tired and need a break, and you're moving right on down to level 2, right? And if you don't get that break, you might even like dance there, and then you go home and you have nothing left for the spouse, for the kids, or for your pet, or if no one's at home, for helping to nourish yourself. So you go sideways for 3 hours because you've turned on some kind of boob tube, like awful stuff. Yeah. But I mean, your best is compared to who you are in the moment. It's not compared to others. It's really not. Okay. But what's important is that you recognize you're accountable to yourself and to everybody, because you're impacting the world at every moment, right? Are you showing up with a complaint, or are you showing up focused on, I am so grateful to just be here, to just be here. My teenage daughter complains about school, and it's crazy. It's crazy. Like, do you know how many billions of kids your age would love to wake up in this home, free, healthy, safe? Let's just stop there. Let's not talk about the quality of the home or the neighborhood or like how much food's in the fridge. That they have a bookshelf. You have a bookshelf outside your room. You have time to pick up a book and edify yourself. And, it doesn't translate for her because I'm not really, at that moment, I'm not the mom she really needs, fine. But that's what's coming out of me, right? And I'll recalibrate later and say, like, what do you think would help you to really see what I see and feel what I feel? Because I want you to grow up with this depth of gratitude and compassion. I didn't grow up in a house like this. My parents were never home. They were never home. I'm here for you because I have the honor of working for myself. Anyway, so a 6 can be a 10 in your world, and don't compare yourself. By the way, I do reference Tom Brady in my first TED Talk. I have 2 TED Talks, and I do use Tom Brady as my example.
He's a great example just from his sportsmanship to who he is as a person, where we can look at his upbringing too, and how he had supportive parents who would nurture him and to make him the individual he is today. And then how he helps people today from starting at, when they're in their teens, maybe doing his camps and saying, you can do it, pushing people. And I think it's so important that we have those individuals in the world, because when we look at books today, libraries are the forgotten tombs of wisdom, where people, they would love an audiobook. They would, maybe love a quick blog, but when it comes to sitting down and learning,
Uh-huh.
not many people choose to do that anymore. And I wanted to get into this aspect of educating oneself to be better, where
Hmm.
they want to elevate themselves. They choose to go out, get the books, get the knowledge, get the coaches, whatever it be, the resources to say, hey, this is going to make me or this is going to help me get to where I need to go. Or this is going to make me better, right? If we want to just make it super simple terms, when we know that there's just so many wonderful books, there's so many wonderful studies from Harvard and Yale that can show us so many parts of the mind or just of behavior. Why are people not hungry for this type of knowledge or wisdom?
Yeah, I'd like to address that. And I have a lot to say about that. Let me quickly, though, get back to Tom Brady. One of the things that I learned that he does that I think makes a huge difference with the team is he gives love, literally. Love you, man. Love you. Love you. And what I remember reading one or two of his teammates saying is, when I'm out there and I'm doing my absolute best, I'm not thinking about myself. This is for the team. This is for Tom. This is for, this other person. It's for others. So if you want to do your best, take that self lens, turn it outward. Because guess what? It's not about you. It's not about me. When I started to feel like, oh my God, I'm just a vessel. Our kids don't even belong to us. They come through us. And when I hear someone ask me, is she yours? I say, well, she came through me, and I'm here to guide her, right? And to help her become who she needs to be. But I mean, what I think you're asking is she my daughter? She's my daughter. Yes, she is. But she's not mine. She belongs to the world, right? Just like we all do. So I think that in essence, that's what Tom's doing. Like the team is here for everybody else, right? Winning is great, but it's not about the egos. All right. So getting back to us bettering our quote selves. First, let's really figure out, let's make sure you understand what quote self means. And I talk about it. Then there's a book called Selfless by Brian Lowry, a professor of psychology, also at Stanford. And it's selfless. We are defined by society. So much of who and what we are is because society tells us this is what you can do and this is who you are. If you really want to change and be better in any way, it's not a cognitive process. It's not about, quote, knowledge. You were talking about knowledge and learning. It's not here. It's here. Okay? The brain might, quote, understand something, but the heart knows. The heart knows. So when we want to quit smoking or we want to go to the gym or we, make all these decisions, starting January 1st, my commitment to myself is XYZ. That's great. If it's just in your brain, forget about it. Forget about it. What you have to do is work at the level of belief. For example, sit down. This is one of the things that I recommend, and write down. What are your beliefs about how the world works? Is it the person who works the hardest and is the fastest and most determined that excels? Or is it the person who is calm and deeply with you, who can really listen, who seems like they care? That's the person who engenders trust. That's the person who you remember being with because you felt that they felt you. You felt like you were truly with them. They were with you. There's a withness. So showing up has a lexicon in it. Speaking to someone, T-O, no. It becomes with and for. Being an individual, you start to feel like you're an all-dividual. And that's when you really love yourself, it becomes to love of all of humanity. Michael, I love you. It becomes love of humanity. You're a human being. And so am I. God, we're a team. We're here together. We got to take care of each other, everyone else, and this planet. That's why we're here. So I want to be careful. If you want to learn something and study, that's fine, but reflect it back into your beliefs. What do we believe about why we're here? What do we believe about whether this is a kind universe? As I mentioned, it's a self-reflective one, right? What do we believe about our identity? Identity is huge. Okay, so instead of choosing to change your behavior, regardless of what Tom Cleary and Atomic Habits and all that stuff says, what you believe about who you are. I'm an athlete. You better bet that next run that you're going to take is different than I'm not an athlete, but I'm trying to start to jog. Like, really, people? Or I quit smoking versus I am a non-smoker. There's a big difference. The people who say, oh, I quit, go back far more than the people whose identity, I am a healthy person. So look at who you are. I am a kind person. I care about others. That is my identity. And you better bet you're going to start to have ideas that are different. You're going to start to do more kind things. You're going to start to have more patience. You're going to start to listen more deeply. You're going to find yourself kind of leaning in. Literally, your whole behavior is going to be different. Anyway, at some point, if you ask me what I recommend to help people level 3 truly show up, we can get to that. But push on the default beliefs you have about what society told you. I need a job and it's for a company and I get a paycheck. Really? Is that really true? You really have those limits? Question them. Say, do I need to believe this? Does it serve me? And by the way, where's all this fear coming from? When you really reflect back, you start to recognize I'm living my life avoiding fear. What do I fear? How is it serving me? And do I need to feel this way?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think of just limits in general. One of the reasons I left teaching and went into coaching was because of this idea of limits, where I was seeing people graduate from elementary, from high school, and even at college when I was there. People were just leaving with so many insecurities about what they were capable of. And it wasn't just knowledge or wisdom or skill set. It was like inbred to them. It was like they made it a part of them, like it was their arm, like their leg, their eye. And as much as you can coach them or like encourage them, it was just like a nagging feeling. And I think of Dan Millman in The Peaceful Warrior. It could be the book, it could be the movie, where when he was at a point where he can see beyond himself, people were asking, hey, Dan, what's the magic juice? Tell me, like, what's your secret? And he's just like, you just have to be present, right? Like, kind of just as a blanket without being a spoiler alert. He knew something, right? But he went on that journey and everyone was looking for the quick road, right? Just the A to B, right? They didn't want to go through the process. They just wanted to say, hey, just give me the blueprint. And as much as the blueprint is helpful, especially for someone who is looking to avoid some of the pitfalls, like for coaching, for example, if you ever got a business coach or something like that, you want to avoid most of the pitfalls that can behold or like befall you if you just decided to go on that journey yourself. And some people do decide to go on that journey. Some people, they decide to get a coach. One of the things coaching in session does is to introduce coaches, to introduce authors, interesting people, to say, hey, like, if you are missing something or if you need some help in a certain area, we got somebody who's willing to help, who's willing to support. And so this is the magic of coaching in session, where I could bring on individuals like yourself, where you can not only just introduce what you do, but you can be a part of someone's life, where people can say, hey, coaching a session is where I'm going to the buffet. I'm going to see what I want to get. And I think of Vegas. Vegas has all of these buffets, right? They have some cheap, you get $8, and then you get the ones that are like $108. This one has like the seafood and stuff. So you get unlimited crab legs. And as much as, I would love to say, hey, just go for the expensive one, you're going to have a better experience. Maybe right now you're at that low level, right? You can only afford the $8 buffet, right? Start somewhere, right? Take what you can get from there and then start to build yourself up. I think what happens is people say, well, if I can't have the best, then I'm not going to have anything at all. Where it's the journey, it's the process.
Yeah. Anyone who says I can't or I won't, I mean, really, it's I won't. I won't. Yeah. If you want to give I'll just share an example of someone who really is leading the life that they want to lead. So I've been very lucky in that everything I've done has really kind of come to fruition, right? I wrote a book, it happens to be a bestseller. In addition to that, it won the Hayakawa Book Prize. Mel Rahman herself wrote this quote for me. I wanted to do a TED Talk. I sent 18 applications, and in 3 weeks, I had 2 yeses. I started to create art and only made it, well, when I was 6, but really only started to go public with it 18 months ago. And I just headlined a global art fair as part of Art Basel, Miami. In fact, I'll walk around and show people some of my art. And, it's very unusual. And the thing is, how did this happen? Right. And if you want to know my sense of it, and this is kind of what I think some people call manifesting, but I never had any doubt. I just created art, and I never worried, was someone not going to like my art? Is someone going to judge my art? I never worried about that, because I truly believe that, what anyone thinks is just, it's about them. It's not about me. And as a result of that, here, this piece is going to be at the Grand Palais in Paris. It's resin. It'll be at the Grand Palais in Paris as part of Art Capital. You can see my stuff is very three-dimensional. It was the headline in the book. Here's a sculpture. A lot of my pieces are actually wrapped because I was at Art Basel last week. So this is the sort of thing. And I mean, anyone could look at this and say, who would want that? But I mean, it never occurred to me that anyone would judge. And I think if we live our lives not worried about people's judgment, and we just do what we feel is right, which is going to be focusing, doing our best, caring about others, taking time to show who we really are, not being afraid to be ourselves, the world will be a better place. And I really think it's that simple. Here I put a gallery in my home. And because I live a truly show up, I try to live a level 3 truly show up life, I'm opening my home to undiscovered artists from around the world, and they can come and do an apprenticeship or just a artist in residence with me, because I'm like, half an hour from Manhattan. I would think that would be appealing to some people. I'm just here to uplift others. If I happen to have a place with an extra bedroom, like, why not? So instead of working with a gallery that's a chokehold on an artist, I'm part of an artist collective where we all help each other and support each other. So this is kind of an example. And I mean, goodness has really flowed. Like, who knew that all of this goodness would come so quickly?
Yeah, sometimes it's the surprising tomorrow that can truly make a difference in someone's life. Because if one day they are at a low level and they are not confident in themselves, and the next moment or the next day they start to see a change or the shift in themselves, and before you know it, they're a person who sees themselves as a mighty warrior, or a person who's like on top of a mountain, right? Like they made it. And this is the mindset that people can reach, they can go for. Of course, you have to figure out how you want to choose to show up in your life, and we have to do that work. But as we begin to wrap up, Marcy, I would love to get some final words, some final thoughts, and to please tell people how they can find you, reach out.
ChooseToShowUp.com is the website, but you can just put my name in. I'm easy to find, Marcy with a Y, Marcy Axelrod. The book's on Amazon. There's also a link to it on my website. I spend very little time online, so the website is very old and dated, but so just don't judge me. I'm also on Instagram. The art, Marcy Axelrod Art, has the most recent stuff, but there's also, just that's it. Amazon has the book. I tried to make it an ebook free, just because I don't want to exclude anybody, and I'm not here for the money. So, but I think Amazon put some kind of low price on it, just a few dollars. I do recommend the hard copy because you want to write on it. You want to embed, like, I don't read things, I embed things. The ideas will change your life. You're choosing at every moment, knowingly or not, how you're showing up. And just showing up, which is that middle level, that is really not where you want to be. That's, you wake up, you're already behind the 8 ball, you grab your clues, you kind of check the box on everything, but the wonder, the beauty, is it missed? And then that's when you lay in bed and you're like, another day, I'm exhausted, and it feels like Groundhog Day, and you can't get ahead, and you're banging your head against a wall, and you're just on the treadmill. That is not what you want. And you want to understand how to live the same moments with joy and with beauty and with care. That's what I explain. And it absolutely changes everything, because all of a sudden, the splendor of the world is going to show up for you in money, in opportunity, in your relationships, in the depth of your friendships. And that's when you lay in bed and you say, this is what it's really about.
Powerful words. Everyone, the links are right down below, so it's easy for you to find what Marcy is doing, to look at her book, check out her website, her art, and even look at some of her TEDx talks, because it's important to not only look at a person, what they're doing today, but what they have done, because the path is maybe not always linear. And sometimes we can always see a person for what they are today, but not what made them. So learn what made Marcy, so then you can begin to see what's going to be plausible in your life, so you can choose to show up fully. So I do want to thank you, Marcy, for coming on, spending some time, of course, talking about your work and showing us some of your art today.
Michael, completely my pleasure. And at some point, I really would like to get to know you better. So stay in touch. You have a place to stay when you come to New York.